Hi, everyone. Welcome to Morbid Planet. I'm your host, Erin Chapman. And before we start tonight, I would just like to remind you guys to make sure to like this video and subscribe below. And that way you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. So tonight we have a very special guest. She is author of the Vita Ortis Vampire series. She is an entrepreneur with her own online shop. She is a photographer and author of a new series called Jonesy, the Paranormal Punk Detective. I would like everyone to give a warm welcome to Dea Schofield. How's it going today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Very good, actually. Sorry, I'm just going to move. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Okay. Okay. So I know you are such a busy lady between writing, attending conventions, and events, taking photos, making fun things for like your online shop that you sell, managing your websites. I'm sure I've forgotten some other things that you do that maybe I don't know about. Can you tell everyone what it actually is you do and about the projects?
Well, I'm an author. That's sort of that's what we're here for,
Yes.
the books. I have day jobs that I do, which actually you mentioned the photography, and a lot of the photography I do, I live in the DC region, so I'm in DC a lot. And I actually do it when I'm on the road, on the fly. So I'll see something and I will stop, or I'll even do it while I'm actually driving, which I do not recommend.
You get in trouble for that here.
Yes, here too. But yeah. So, these days, especially if you live in an expensive area like I do, you got to have different ways of earning your pay.
Yes, your day job, like most of us.
And most authors have day jobs. So yeah.
Okay. And now that we just know a little bit about what you do, I just like to go way back because I always like to ask people, what were they like when you were a kid? What kind of things were you into? And, did all your creative juices start back then? Or is this just something that kind of evolved as you got bigger and older?
I think the creative juices started early.
Okay.
I was kind of a wild child. So any chance to get out of the house and go running and just exploring the world, I took it. So I was always out exploring. I just always wanted to just go check out the world. And it got me in trouble. There were times when I got in trouble. I think I was between 3 and 5. And I remember a neighbor told me she had kittens. And so I went running to go see these kittens. Well, I disappeared. My mom called the cops. And I remember sitting in the back of this cop car, just sitting there talking to the police officer. And,
you're like, nothing's wrong. Everything's cool.
It's like, well, what? There were kittens. But yeah, I mean, I lived in a lot of different places. And so learning about the world was a really big part of it. And then my brother and I, we enjoyed, making stories up and play acting roles, doing roles, and but I always was telling stories in my head, always. And then the writing, it especially, like I always wrote, but it especially started when I was in my teens. And an angsty teen, I mean, the term goth didn't exist back then. It hadn't been coined yet, but I was reading all these like graveyard poets and stuff, and I wrote a lot of poetry. So, it was like it was a coping mechanism, really. It was a way of coping. So, yeah.
Okay. I know that most people that I've talked to at this point, whether it's writers or just any kind of medium that they work with, everyone seems to have that aha moment where something in their life just pops, and it's where they just discovered their niche and what got them into what they love doing. When was your aha moment that got you into writing?
Um, well, like I said, I always wrote, but actually writing a novel,
Mm-hmm.
it was in 2010.
Okay.
And I kind of had gone through a big change in life, and um, found myself sort of in this new environment and sort of a new place. It was like a new, there'd just been a big shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember one day, and the stories just started to kind of download. And I
Just like
remember
outpour.
well, it was downloading into my head. Like, it was starting to just download from,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the muses or whatever. And I remember having this moment of going, if you want to be a writer, if you want to be an author, then you have to be an author. And I just remember saying to myself, you're an author. And it really was an it really was like one of those aha moments, because it was like making a commitment.
Yeah.
It was, well, it wasn't like making a commitment, it was a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. um I know your books lean very deeply in towards like the supernatural genre. What inspired you to take this direction with your stories?
Well, I always loved um the supernatural genre. I always loved spooky things and ghost stories. From ever since I could remember, I loved ghost stories.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think maybe with there's a magic in it. So like, there's not a lot of magic left in the world. There's not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of mystery, like, that sort of mystery that kind of leaves you you're in wonder.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I I just enjoy. I kind of enjoy that side of things. And I like the idea of creating stories that involve that, but then bringing it into the real world and playing with it and tweaking it so that you've got science and you've got really rational explanations for why it's existing
Mm-hmm.
in this sort of real world environment.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. um so at this point you've written a 4-book vampire series, and full disclosure to everyone, I've actually read 3 of them so far and I really love them. They actually were really good. There's still the 4th one to read, which this just came out recently and I'm really excited to, but honestly I've got to reread the other ones before I get into this one, but I'm still excited.
And I
um
love hearing that, by the way.
well, I think if I recall, when I got the first one, I read it in like 2 days. I just like plowed through it because I enjoyed it, and it was just like, oh, I just that's what I do if it's a really good book. Otherwise, the other ones I just kind
I'm
of
the
put off
same.
for a
I'm the
while.
same way. I'm the same way.
But I was going to ask, can you tell everyone about the series? Just because a lot of these our viewers, they don't know about it. Um, what influenced you to write it, and also one of the things that I personally know about you, that you've lived all over the world, but I know there's a lot of that that comes into these books. I wanted to know, how do you tie that in there, and how did that influence with these books as well?
So I remember, because I love vampire stories myself, and I remember reading somewhere, in several places, people saying, "Does the world really need another vampire story?" And I remember getting so upset by that, going, "What do you mean? What do you mean? Does the world need another detective story? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
It's not full. There's still room.
There's always room, Um, and I mean, I had a lot that I wanted to write about. And I love not only the sort of supernatural, but I love mythology and folklore, and I
Mm-hmm.
love different cultures. And it just, one of my big sort of personal things is conservation, the environment, species dying out, that kind of thing. And it just sort of like, I started thinking, what if there were multiple species of vampires all over the world? What if there were all different kinds? Just like there are multiple species of birds or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And of course you have to have a hero of the story, you know, and so obviously I'm going to write about a heroine as opposed to a hero. And I wanted to go way back, because with vampires, you're always going to have time should play a role, in my opinion. It's part of the theme. One of the themes of vampires is that they can live a very long time. And I kind of like the idea of like an origin stories. And but I also wanted this plant. I wanted there to be a plant. You know, the first story ever that we know of currently is the Epic of Gilgamesh. And one of the main things in that story is a magic plant. It's a plant that gives immortality.
Okay.
And so I kind of wanted a plant in there that was going to do this and was going to perhaps help these vampires who are like other species on the planet starting to have problems.
Yeah.
You know. And so of course you have your heroine, who is the one that she's the only one that can do this.
Yeah.
So, and of course it goes on from there. It's a rich story. And because I like rich stories. I like stories that are really complex and have a lot going on and are detailed, and you know that you can just fall in. You like fall into that world, you know. But also, you know, it's vampires. You got to have fun with it too. And so the main character in it, Devi, I honestly was influenced by the character that Jane Fonda plays in Barbarella. So Barbarella. When I think of Devi, I think of Barbarella.
It's one movie I've never seen. I know of it, but it's like I've seen a lot of her older stuff. Like
you need to see it.
Cat Ballou is one of my favorite movies. I love that movie of her. But
I think
yeah,
you would
I've
love
never seen that one.
Barbarella. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. It's crazy. But you know, there's a certain naivety to her character. So she's a bit naive, but she's also this explorer, and she's brave. She's got courage and, you know, and ethics.
Yeah.
And that's also a big thing, is like keeping your ethics when you're surrounded by some darkness and, you know.
Well, and that's what I really loved about the whole thing with all the different locations around the world that they go to. Because when you're reading about it, the way you write, it's like you're there, or you've been there, obviously, to show, and it just comes out with the way you write it. And that's one of the things I really like, is just all the traveling that they do and everywhere that they go. And it's beautiful, just the way it's all laid out.
Thank you. Yeah. I have a lot of gratitude for the traveling that I've done, because, you know, you can bring some life to it. It doesn't mean that people who write that have not been to those places can't write about it, but it does help if you've been there.
Yeah. Because I can't remember, I think it was you started younger, right? Was it when you were as a kid you moved around? I can't remember.
Yeah. From Southern California to Germany, a lot of years in Germany.
Yeah.
Lived in several different states in the States. Germany, France, UK, and Australia.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I also traveled all over, you know, all over Europe.
All the in-betweens.
Yeah. Mexico. Yeah.
Okay.
I need to get to Canada though.
Yes. Well, not right now. It's getting really cold. So, and rainy, and we've got a lot of snow on the mountains now. So yeah, it's starting to get very cold here. Too cold for me. I don't like it now. But I know with your main character, Debbie, she's a very unique woman. And just because I personally know you, it's funny as I read the books and different characteristics that she has, they actually make me think of you a lot of different times. So I was wondering, is she actually based on you? And are some of the other characters in the series, are they based on real people as well? Or are we just talking all just fictional that you just made up?
Um, well, other than the actual historic characters, that
Hmm.
there's several characters in it that are actual taken from historic individuals who
Okay.
had odd deaths. It's a great way to explain a vampire that's a famous person,
Hmm.
if they had a mysterious death. Um, uh, with Debbie, she definitely has some of me in her. Um, because I feel like when you have the character in the story that the reader is viewing everybody else through,
Hmm.
it's kind of it's got to be relatable, and it's got to be when you're writing that, uh, I think it's got to be comfortable for the author to write that character. Like if you think of Stephen King novels, I mean, I remember several of his stories thinking there's a lot of him in this, or other authors. You think of Edgar Allan Poe,
Hmm.
and I mean, that he's in a lot of those characters. I mean, you can hear him
Yeah.
in those characters. I think it just is, when you, especially when you're writing it from first person. Um, yeah, you're going to put a lot of yourself into it. But there's other characters in it that Alec, which is there's a point of view from a male, one of the lead male character.
Hmm.
Um, I know there's a bit of me in him, but I have a tendency to often be inspired by a living person, whether it's an actor or somebody, where it kind of inspires and then I kind of remold it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it makes it you get like you're able to get that person's idiosyncrasies down, you know.
Okay. Um,
Oh, and one of my favorite
oh, yeah.
characters in it is who was a real person who
Yeah.
actually existed. Is he comes in, and I think the second story, Stefan,
Okay.
uh, and he actually is based on Esteban the Moor, who was he was the very first person from the African continent to come to the Americas.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, this guy's story is crazy. I can't believe I can't believe there haven't been movies made about this, what happened to this guy. But anyway, he's one of the characters in it. So
Okay. So let's get into a new project that I know we were talking about is available on the new Kindle Vella, and it's Jonesy the paranormal punk detective. Can you tell me about it, and also a little bit maybe what is Kindle Vella, because I'm not familiar with that at all at this point until you told me about it.
so Kindle Vella is a new platform that Amazon Kindle has put out, and it's uh it's serialized. So
Okay.
the authors are putting up chapters. They're
Okay.
so I've got, as of right now, there's 3 chapters, and this is going to be a series. Um, right now, this is the first one that I'm writing, and it's actually called Jonesy and the Angry Ghost.
Okay.
Um, and it takes place in the early 80s in DC during the punk. So DC was well known for its punk, um, that punk period, the hardcore punk. And a lot of bands came out of, Fugazi and all these other ones came out of that.
Hmm.
Um, and the 930 Club which I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's
No.
kind of like a version of CBGB in New York City. But it's kind of it's become a iconic club.
Okay.
And so anyway, it takes place during that time period, and it's kind of a new adult, so not a young adult, but
Yeah.
a new adult. So it's somebody who's finding themselves suddenly out in the world and having to get by. And so it's kind of the punk scene, but it's also DC. So she's got parents who are in the CIA, and stuff goes wrong, and she finds herself sort of out. But in this first one, they're exploring the alley, which is behind what was the 930 Club. So it's this alleyway behind this famous club, what is now a
Okay.
very club, and which doesn't exist anymore. It exists, but it's in a different form. It doesn't.
Yeah.
They moved, and it happens to be the alley that after he shot Lincoln, that Booth escaped.
Okay.
So there's a lot of ghost stories in DC.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing with this series is taking the paranormal stuff around DC and creating these things that this character Jonesy, she's going to stumble into becoming a paranormal detective.
It sounds fun.
It is fun. It's fun.
Which so over the years you've done so many projects, and I know you've worked on different books. For you, which one has had the most meaning, which is like a labor of love for you? What are you most proud of?
Well, I would say oh, that's a hard one. I mean, I think the whole series, Vita Ortis series, but I will say this. So the one I'm most proud of is probably the first one, or the first 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
But the fourth book was the one that was the hardest to get out, because I couldn't write for 4 years.
Yeah.
Like I could barely write for 4 years just because of events in the States. And now I can, and I'll be starting the 5th one in January, because I'm going to go through and reread the books, just because that's what I like to do when I start a new one.
Yeah.
Just so it's all fresh. But the whole series, because it's kind of like, it's like a long, it flows in, each book flows into the next. So.
It does, and that's why I felt like I can't read the 4th one and justify it and like just get as good of an experience until I go back, and I want to kind of do the whole thing again, because I think I'd appreciate it more. So
I'll tell you, there's nothing better than hearing that people want to go back and reread it, and I've had people say that, and it's just, that's the best compliment you could get. The absolute best compliment. Yeah.
And I know, so you're such a busy lady because you do so many things. When you actually do have some downtime, what do you like to do?
Well, what I really want to do is I want to take my cat on walks in like the historic cemeteries. I've done it once.
Yeah, I saw that.
I have a black cat, and she likes to go for walks. She walks in the harness. When I'm tired and I need to rest, like at night, I enjoy, like I like to read too.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite sort of fun authors is Kim Harrison, the Hollow series. I really enjoy that series. But I also like to watch paranormal or ghost hunting shows.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy doing that. I do a lot of, I'm always doing projects, like the things that I sell, like at the conventions and stuff. Those take a lot of time to make.
Yes.
So I might like have something on that's kind of a little bit mindless, and then I'll be sitting doing that. I mean, I also have grandkids. So
this is one of my favorite little that you gave me, my little
Oh,
bookmark. I keep it on my desk. I don't actually use it for a bookmark, but I keep it on my desk because I like it.
which beads does it have on it?
This one has the red one and it's got a little skull. I don't know, it's kind of hard to see with the light.
Yeah.
And then it's got the bat and then the little fangs on the side
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I like it. And it's one of those things like it's too nice to be a bookmark. So yeah, I hang it on my desk light.
I call them book baubles.
Yeah, I like them. They're pretty. I'm one of those people, and a lot of people hate them, but I'll fold the corners because I'm too lazy to go get a bookmark or a piece of paper. So I fold my books.
I don't judge. I
Yeah.
don't judge that. If you're
Yeah.
reading, the only thing that's important to me is if you're reading. You
Yeah.
can fold. It's your book, right?
I know some people are like, monsters, you fold the pages. And it's like, yeah, I do. So can you tell us, is there like a fun fact that most people don't know about you?
Repeat that because I had a call just come in.
Oh, that's okay. Is there a fun fact that you can tell us that a lot of people don't know about you?
I have seen a UFO twice in my life.
Oh,
Yeah.
where were
Once in Texas.
Okay.
It wasn't far from, it was 1977 or 78, I think 77. And where we lived was not that far from the biggest army base, I think, in the world, which is Fort Hood, Texas.
Okay.
So it wasn't far from there. And there's a lot of cattle grazing land. And we saw this, I mean, it was a giant triangle, black triangle, silent, huge, scary, really ominous. And then I saw two like kind of little glowing discs here in the DC area. 30 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool, actually.
No explanation for what they were. Certainly not any technology that we had.
Yeah.
You know.
Especially back then.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There was like no doubt no doubt in my mind that what I was saying was not like
from here.
Us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like stuff like that. And what is one of the most absurd things that you love?
Well, there's the ghost hunting show.
Yes, you're a big fan of those.
I really am.
It's funny that you said that because I was watching just before we started this. I actually finally was watching the Highgate, the Curse of the Highgate Emperor. So yeah, got me in the mood for the call. So, okay.
Did I mention something then when we talked about?
You said your paranormal ghost shows. Like, yeah, that's, it's different. That's what people like to do.
I mean, I know that I have lots of ridiculous. I mean, we all do, don't we?
I think
cat
so.
Cat videos.
I like turtle videos. So yeah,
right.
To each their own.
Yep.
With all your successes, what is the most hardest thing that you've actually had to overcome in your life? Has there been something that was difficult too?
Yeah. I mean, there always have been. But I would say, well, I'm sober 24 years, so that's probably the biggest.
Congrats. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be here talking to you if I hadn't done that. So yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. What's next in the pipeline? Like, I know you mentioned you're going to work on book 5. So yes. When do you think that'll be released? Are you thinking like a year, 2 years? I know it always depends on, yeah.
Because I was not anticipating, I mean, I'd probably be moving on to another completely different series at this point if that sort of 4-year period hadn't happened. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes the way that the creative, the way it flows, it really is a sort of energy that sort of comes it downloads and it comes, and you do have to be in the right kind of space to write. And if you're too tired, you can't do it. At least creative writing, it's so who knows? I mean, I can do it in as little as 6 months, like hopefully
power through.
Hopefully less than a year.
Okay. Is there anything else besides the Vita Ortis that you're working?
Well, the Jonesy stuff.
Okay.
I'm having a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It must be nice in a way because you've written about this whole other, your vampire world, and you've done it for so many years, and then it's kind of like you've got this fresh new world, which I think that's kind of cool. So
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
So
and I'm also working on, I just forgot something. My daughter and I are working on a children's book.
Ooh.
Which is also going to have like this supernatural monsters in it, but it's it's going to be about more or less about inclusiveness. So using all the witches and vampires and werewolves and stuff to
that's really
not
cool,
too scary, because it's going to be for pretty little kids. But
yeah, I've seen a few cool ones at the store when it's like Halloween here. You get some little cute little kid books that are just like about a vampire and ghosts and stuff. So yeah, I know when I was growing up, one of the things I loved watching was House of Frankenstein, and I used to watch that when I was probably about, I guess I was about 5 or 6, and I used to get up. It was on at 6 a.m. I had no idea why it was on at 6 a.m.
Wow.
over here, but I used to get and sneak downstairs, and I just sit in the dark and watch it by myself, and everyone was sleeping. So yeah, I loved that. That was that's probably one of the earliest memories I have of, supernatural type stuff. So no, I think something like that would be amazing. Kids would love that.
Well, and I'm, the conventions I go to, a lot of they're horror, most of them are horror conventions, and a lot of kids are really getting into,
See, and you'd have a perfect medium, and you can bring it with you and add it to your display with all your other lovely goodies in your books that you have, because your displays are always really, you put a lot of effort into them. So I really like those,
because that's part of the creative, it's not just the writing, it's the look as well. It's having fun with the look.
But we're almost out of time. So before we wrap up again, I just like to tell everyone, as a reminder, if you haven't, like our video below, make sure to subscribe. Then you'll get our future videos popping up. And also make sure to check out in the description below I'm going to actually include where you can find Dea on her social media platforms, her website, where you can buy her books. So all of that will be below in the description. And even just go on like her Instagram or something, and you can actually see what she puts out for these conventions, because the displays are amazing. So make sure to check those out if you can. And otherwise, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been super fun. Thank you to everyone for watching tonight too, as well. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. Again, if at any point you want me to interview someone, you've got something I should check out, message us, comment below, let me know. And otherwise, thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
You.
And everyone, make sure you stay safe and stay morbid. Bye for now.